are they trying to put a fly on us? Stop us being...
Yeah, like, they know.
And there is a lot of flavour.
Then they can say,
They don't want
we
us to
can
know
fight
this.
it.
They want to control us and negotiate us.
Yeah. They can say, okay, we know it. We can hide it.
Put it through, but has some new scientific discoveries, like quantum physics. That is a quantum physics. That is a obviously, yogis have been talking about that for donkeys. Like how there's something called
Hope you're enjoying it here. Speakers today. The usual suspects. Gotta admire, like the Muslims are more out here. Hey, you would think this was more of a Muslim country, given how many Muslims are here. Christians are not quite as vociferous in their support of their belief. Here's some Rolling Stoners. Earth is flat. You cannot live on a rolling stone. Rolling stone gathers no moss. Water is flat and level. I think it's time I did a little bit of yeah, how are you guys? Oh, this is the Rolling Stones, by the way, today. You probably already picked that up from my footage earlier. But it's the Rolling Stones today. A rolling stone gathers no moss. You can't live on a globe. We live on a flat enclosed world. Rolling stone gathers no moss. Rolling stone cannot hold water. We must live inside a container. We can't live on a globe. The globe is a lie. I am having a little... I needed that. I was a little tense. I got a little tense earlier. Rolling stone gathers no moss. You can't live on a globe. Globe's a lie. Earth is flat. Just like it says in the Quran, the Bible, Earth is not moving. The sun is moving. Earth is flat. Look at that poor fearful fellow. A rolling stone gathers no moss. And it doesn't hold water either. We can't live on a rock. We can't live on a globe. We live inside an enclosed flat earth. Look into research flat earth. You do not live on a rock. NASA is a hoax. We never went to the moon. That, I'm afraid, is another lie designed to demean you and hide God from you. I'm running out of space on this. I'm going to have to clear my memory. Oh, no, maybe not. Not yet. How are you doing, guys? Earth is flat. We do not live on a globe. We live on the inside of an enclosed world. Rocks do not hold water. Water will run off a rock. Water needs to be contained and will form level and horizontal with every other body of water on Earth. Earth is flat. I'm hitting some of the let's see.
So they could be, I'm not saying it for sure.
Otherwise, you can't go nothing.
Yeah, well,
If that was Newton, drop the apple like, and that's the only way we found out that there wasn't gravity.
right, gravity. So gravity is the only intelligent force that can determine between different objects.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that was about the only one I know.
Here's the thing, right? So if gravity holds all the oceans,
Yeah.
to this ball, right? So it's thousands and thousands, millions of tons of water. It's got the strength to do this.
But gravity holds up different bodies. Otherwise, it will be floating.
It's got the power to hold all the oceans to this ball. But then fish can swim through this water. Birds can sit on top of the water and they can take off and fly. I can stand next to a 20-ton lorry and not be crushed to death. So gravity must be this intelligent, the only intelligent force. I do it all the time. There's lorries, there's a bus there, I'm not being crushed, but that bus, gravity's holding that bus to the ground. That is not crushing me to death, is it?
No, because you're being stuck there and that bus is stuck over there.
But it's the same force that's pushing the same force. So is there different force on me to what there is there then?
Sir, can I offer something? Just about the example you gave, we all know about the apple falling from the tree being the evidence for gravity.
Well, that's the one, but that's the only one I can think of.
Yeah. But what we're not taught to think about is that the tree had to lift the water up drop by drop in order to create that fruit. So there was an original lifting, there was a force applied to the water.
Yeah, but there's a tree there, and the tree's growing, and it's sucking up the water.
Correct. Correct. It's also almost pumping up the water, right?
Yeah.
In simple terms, it's pumping the water up. So it's lifting that water up to about 2 meters above the ground, and eventually when the apple weighs...
growing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's growing. That's right. That's
same
right.
as growing, not
Correct.
growing.
Correct.
So
Correct.
It's only a growing thing.
But in order for the water or an apple to get off the floor, I have to pick it up. And that is what we're not taught to think about, because that is the anti-force that we then call gravity. So I lift it up, the higher I lift it, the more gravitational force it acquires. Because the higher I lift it, the further or harder it's going to fall, or faster it's going to fall.
I wouldn't know that.
Yeah?
I wouldn't know
well,
that.
we know that things speed up at 9 meters per second.
The thing,
So
they
up
send
into
a
a point.
rocket up, and they actually, in the end, they get out the force of gravity.
Well, that's beyond what you and I can test for ourselves, sir. So if it's on TV, doesn't mean it's true.
Of course.
Possibly they can create these things in a studio.
But when you say
I mean the people who create religions and other beliefs. So what I say to people,
world's a conspiracy.
yeah, well, yeah, it is. What I say to people at the bottom line, because the flat Earth is just a doorway. It's an entry into, wow, what if everything we've ever been taught has been misdirection for the purpose of demeaning or minimizing you and our Creator? Minimizing you and our Creator, and I think that's what this globe heliocentrism, sun worship, is all about. Is that instead of what the Bible said is that the earth was created ahead of the lights, and the lights are small, and they're there to guide you, to give you your daytime and your nighttime. This is a heliocentrism, puts the sun as the center of our solar system and the most important
Universe.
Yeah.
They don't reckon it is like, it's just one planet in the universe, isn't it?
Yeah, again, that diminishes what Earth is, because if there's billions of other habitable planets,
we're just a little
insignificant speck.
Yeah.
But what I say to people is that God had an idea to create an Eden project.
So you're religious?
No.
Oh.
But God had an idea. I believe that there's a higher power. I use the word God. I could use the word Allah. I could use Gaia, whatever.
So there's some power.
But there's a higher something.
Yeah.
And that higher something had an idea, an intention to create a world in which it could come and experience itself. And that's what I believe this is, an Eden project, if you like, a perfectly self-contained, self-surviving system in which God or the Creator expresses itself and says, I'm going to give you dominion over this earth to go and have fun, survive, live, have highs, have lows, taste, smell, have all of the experiences that I cannot have, become richer perhaps as a soul. That might be part of it, that there is a soul story happening, a millennial or an infinite soul story, the journey that each of us is on. How that we're connected to each other is unclear, but ultimately there is a single source. There is a top of the pyramid, if you like, and we're at the bottom of that pyramid, experiencing the pyramid, but within it. Just like I say to people...
So you don't get anything out of any specific Bible, or what do you read?
No, but I think that there's great truths in the Bible and the Quran and others, and then I say to people,
bits of them,
they're like a guidebook. So what I say to people is that if Christ was you, then the 12 disciples would be the 12 disciplines of the mind and the soul that you need to master on this life journey.
You could look at it in so many different ways. I mean, I'm not a nasty person, but there was in the Bible, there's Jesus, there's 12 disciples, there's 13 blokes.
Yeah.
To me, that doesn't seem right. We're all friends, but we're all religious.
Okay. But now, what about those 13?
It does seem like, a lot of fellas hanging out together.
Oh, that kind of hanging out together. Yeah, but that's all about the messing with the...
that's not my theory.
Oh.
That's not my theory at all. But the thing is, if that happened today...
Okay, so you're a bloke, right? And if I was to say those 12 disciples were your 12 masculine disciplines, then yes, they're all men and they should be close to you. Your 12 disciplines, which is how you...
Friends and friends, but they never had no girlfriends or never had any girlfriends. You know, they weren't mentioned.
Yeah, but what if they're allegorical? That, you know how we have 12 zodiacal signs? There's 12 signs of the zodiac. You don't know that? You know, like there's
Someone made that up.
No, but you can see those stars are those shapes.
But someone said that's Capricorn.
Yes.
That's someone.
Yes.
And you know,
Yes,
that was
you.
it. And they went,
Intelligent-
right, fair enough, we'll have that.
Intelligent people that came before us. So we think that there are epochs of humankind or creation that come before, which is what explains very big buildings that we cannot build today. The Parthenon, the Acropolis, all these massive buildings that we cannot build today, these beautiful cathedrals, even in this country, 700-800 years old apparently, yet we can't barely repair them. You know, there is something amiss with the story. There's something amiss with the story we're told, and we think that there was ancient knowledge far exceeding what we have today. We've been dumbed down, we've been reduced, minimized to much smaller, much dumber beings than our Creator originally intended. But eventually nature will bring it all round in cycle, and we will go back to the fullness of God's intention. But all of this needs to play out. All of this Sodom and Gomorrah, this mayhem, this hatred, this division, separation.
There's a lot in here.
Yes, that's what we see. Good luck, brother. Goodbye. Cheers.
That's how buoyancy is calculated.
Yeah, do you know what I think? I believe more in terms of we live in an electromagnetic universe. Yeah, and the centre is an electromagnetic force that is doing this pull that you're stating as gravity, possibly, yeah?
Okay, that's a statement now.
There's a possibility, yeah?
I don't know, I wouldn't know if it is a possibility. But you're saying it is. Can you give some?
Obviously it is, yeah.
Why is it obvious?
Well, we can't prove it isn't, so we can't rule it out, can we? We have to be open-minded here.
Can I tell you my story quickly? I'm 54 years old. I started 47 when I took DMT. DMT, I was an atheist up until that point. DMT kicked my ass. Do you know what it is? DMT? Spirit molecule. Kicked my ass like you cannot believe. In the 5-6 minutes that I was in the experience, I could see my eyes, everything. I could see everything around me was just light. It was just like sound and light pulsing. I'm an atheist. The first words I said when I came out of that at 47 is, "It's true, there is a God." That's 7 years ago now. And in that time, I've done an awful lot of research, which includes you can move. Which includes. Oh, okay.
I'm just doing a courtesy. I'm not pointing at the camera.
Yeah.
Point it at me or this lady up here.
I can't get past you. There.
Why filming? It's not necessary. Why do you want to film?
I film because I'm trying to make more people aware, and partly because when I found this out, I used to work for the government. I left my job. I started gardening and so on. I didn't earn enough money to keep my home. I lost my home, and I've been on the road for 2.5 years. And some of how I've survived is because of YouTube. My supporters, subscribers have sent me money, donations, and so on. At the end of last year, I lost my YouTube channel because YouTube didn't like me talking about the pandemic. I can't talk about that. And I lost my channel because I was talking too much about that.
So can I interrupt you just for a moment? You interjected a conversation about the flat Earth.
Yeah, so I wanted to tell you my story. Absolutely, absolutely. So first of all, I went to war for my country in 1987. So I've done my bit. And then I worked for the government here in Westminster, and I've done my bit. And then once I published my book, I got given information that my battles were being staged. The battles that I was in Angola were being staged, tank battles. So then I go and look at 9/11. I find out that's not what I believe from the National Geographic Channel. Then I go and find that I had the DMT experience, and then I go and find there's a formula for the curvature of Earth, of water, and that doesn't exist. I grew up on water. My dad's in shipping. Water is level. I can sail 10 miles and prove that the land is still behind me. I can sail another 10 miles and prove that the water is still level. This is what we can prove, is that water is level. So for me, I started looking at everything, including the science that I raised my older children on, which is that we evolved from Africa, from monkeys, from dinosaurs, from Big Bang, and all of that. And I realized, wow, all of this is based on a lot of belief, conjecture, and theory. a lot of theory, gravity, relativity, Big Bang, 14 billion years, all of that stuff is theoretical. You and I cannot test that for ourselves, and we have to take it from the gods of science that you and I cannot prove. Now, when the gods of science can get it so wrong as to lock everybody down in 2020, how could they miss, or with other things, how could they not get it wrong perhaps, or be misled by a certain belief? Because these scientists, by the way, were simply the cleverest kids in the class, the ones who took the science we were given and went on and taught it.
It's a classic argument of scientists. Science is such a general thing. Science is such a general thing. Science is paid for and all that kind of good stuff. The general assumptions there, but I want to take you back to your DMT experience.
I'm filming myself now, so don't worry.
The DMT experience, for instance, there's various parasites that can take over a cat's brain, make cat run toward a rat's brain, and make a rat run towards a cat, so that it'll be eaten by the cat, so it can propagate the parasite. A mushroom psychedelic experience could be the mushroom survival mechanism, where it makes you have a godlike experience, so that you will go forth and propagate it.
Yeah.
And in ancient cultures, we took the mushroom wares and made it a sacred item. It's just a form of outwitting us, so that we propagated it. It's just chemistry. And we are simple machines that are manipulated, and we manipulate through very simple chemical reactions. DMT as an experience of God is a very simple argument. I've took salvia, I've took various different hallucinogenic experiences, and I've touched God, I've experienced the God within, I've bonded with the universe. I've had experience where I entered the nothing, and I was there for an infinite amount of time, for an infinite nothingness, and then it was a crocodile made of leaves that came into the nothing and pulled me out the nothing, and I met a shaman 6 years later at a movie thing, and he says, I'm a shaman, that was your shamanic animal, and a crocodile. It's all conjecture. Nobody knows anything.
But that was your experience?
Is it my brain, like the holodeck in Star Trek, recreating various things to make sense of all the books and information I digest? There's so many variables. And
I can't argue that.
It's all conjecture. I mean, we can know some things with more confidence than others.
Absolutely. Like what happens after life. You see, for me, my experience was that we don't die. So I had a fear of death. I thought that my life was it. That was all it is. But my experience was very much I connected to my higher self. Was an infinite being that couldn't be hurt by anything of this earth. That was my experience, but until someone else has had an experience like that, it's always going to be okay. So, well, what a coincidence. But that was my experience. But that was 7 years ago, and from there I went and started looking at other things, and I realized that because I can't make you believe anything, but I realized that there were things that I can prove, like water being level, and that all bodies of water are parallel to each other. I can prove that, demonstrate that on a small scale.
How can you prove and demonstrate it?
Have you ever been in a swimming pool?
Yeah.
So I could take a swimming pool and then layer a bowl of water above that, and another bowl of water above that, and a water bottle, and so on. And all of those bottles, all of that water, when it settles, I'll be able to measure them to be parallel to each other.
What you're describing now is something akin to the scientific method. Experimentation, repeatable.
Absolutely.
So when others, the scientific community that you're so skeptical of, says the same thing, why do you reject that and then expect us to take your claim seriously?
So what I just gave you was an example that you and I can do for ourselves of taking basins of water, bowls of water, different things at different heights, and measuring that those waters are all level and also parallel, importantly.
So
let me finish. So, of course, you can tip the glass any way you like. Once the water settles, it will be, aside from surface tension, it will be level. So, and parallel. This is important, that it's parallel. So I can make those bowls much bigger, a mile big,
So how can you
lake,
compare a body of water here to one 10,000 miles away and say that they're parallel?
I can't reach those two in if it's 10,000 miles, but I could do it if it was a mile. Would you agree? If I put 10 units of water, 10 bowls of water at different heights or whatever, I could measure those things.
With all due respect, we're not talking about swimming pools. We're talking about oceans. We're talking about what covers two-thirds
Science.
of
Yeah. Okay.
two-thirds of the world. However however you want to shape it.
Yeah, at least do that. That's why it's so important.
Glasses or swimming pools or even lakes, for that matter, are not really. It's not really that we're talking about.
Okay,
So when you see,
it is, because you see, you know science. Science says that if you can show something at scale. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. If you can show something at scale, then it's okay to hypothesize, particularly if I can scale it once, twice, 3 times. Now, why not allow me to scale it 4 and 5 times?
but then
Why not? Hold on.
if you're shown a glass of water filled to the brim with a curve, and you dismiss it as surface tension.
Convexity.
Well, you dismissed it already as surface tension.
Don't you know that it's that?
Do I know?
Don't you know it's that?
Do I know?
Do you know what surface tension is?
I know what surface tension is.
Okay, so that's why we can have a water droplet, because it's got surface tension. You'll get this perfect droplet falling through an atmosphere,
Right.
and then that surface tension will make that beautiful droplet shape. We understand that, and we understand that I can fill a glass so that it actually convexes to a point that it will overflow. But when I'm talking about a lake that's a mile long, that convexity is just a little bit of a bip on the shore there. That's not much to notice. But if I made it 100 miles long, it might be a 3-foot wave now. It might be a 4-foot wave. But it's still the same. It curves inside of a bowl, but the surface is level. But what you're not willing to accept is that this little bit of ripple on the edge of your glass cannot then become a ball. It will never then, eventually it gets to a point where it just starts to spill over. The surface tension of the glass will fail, and it will start to overflow.
What do you mean a ball?
A sphere.
I'm not saying that the Earth is made of water. I'm saying that
You said it was 70% water just now.
No, I said the 2/3 of the surface are covered in water.
That's a ball.
That's an assumption.
So that is a water ball there. That there is a water ball.
Understand that anyone?
No, I don't understand.
Nobody who claims that the Earth is a globe says that the center of the Earth is made of water.
No, you're saying center of
You're
Earth.
saying a ball of water.
Yeah, so imagine a golf ball. Let me just, now I'm going to shrink. Now we're going to do what you said I couldn't do for myself, but I like good science that says if you're making a hypothesis that says that there's a 2,000 ball, a globe the size of the Earth, that has water, 60% or 70% of water on it, I should be able to shrink that down to a basketball and replicate that. Just like I offered you with my bowls of level water, I should be able to say, right, here's a basketball. I'm going to have continents that stick out of it, and the water, on the outside. Remember?
You fail to have understood the reasons why the scientific community says water sticks to the globe.
Show me it in them small though, bro. I've offered you the flat earth in bowls and then lakes. And now...
Just say it's a spinning mass.
Yeah. A spinning? A spinning what?
A spinning mass. Just say we're replicating the Earth as a small spinning mass. How would you replicate so you need some form of containment that can allow that to be frictionless, or the various progression of atmosphere.
Thermodynamics 101. Thermodynamics. Yes. Containment.
The gravity. There's nothing that can replicate that. Just to be a computer model.
A computer model? No, I'll give you nature. I'll give you a natural model. I'll give you an orange. An orange is an example of how the Earth might be. That our universe is one orange. The universe, the stars, and everything that we can see is one orange. What I'm offering you is something that you can observe. Name me one fruit. Name me one fruit. Name me one fruit that grows on the outside of its skin.
Unfortunately, what you're doing is you're demonstrating that perhaps you don't understand the claims that have been made about the Earth.
No, I don't stand under those claims. When you say claims, what is provable about this claim? That water is clinging to the outside and the underside of a ball, my friend. Because if I brought you a ball, a rock of any sort, and I poured water on it, guess what would happen? The water would run off and fall. That's what happens in my reality. In your belief system given to you by NASA and Disneyland,
doesn't have the mass of the Earth.
So you can't prove what you're saying.
That's like saying,
so you can't prove it with a rock.
if I was to go into a freezer that was minus 271 Kelvin and pour water over a rock, that the water should react as you've just described it, but we've changed all the environment, we've changed the atmosphere, we've changed variables, and when you're changing these variables, like if I take a 1/17 replica of an Aston Martin, you know, and get the engine,
Yeah.
1/17, you know,
Yeah.
you know, I can't replicate that car without replicating the engine and the weight and the lubricants, you know, and say that, well, look at the way water comes off this.
I mean, an orange doesn't have the attributes of a rock with a 27,000 mile circumference, unfortunately.
Okay, I can offer you an answer to that because I've thought about this, so you haven't. But I just want to say, so you agree that you could make a 1 in 7 model of an Aston Martin? You could build that.
I could not build
But
that.
somebody could build that and they could drive it here and we could see it working, right? They can do a 1 in 10 model of a 747. Yes, gentlemen, don't be stupid on me now. You know that they could build a 1 in 10 scale model, but you cannot build a model of this fabricated globe spinning. What? I've offered you a model to say that I could give you a swimming pool.
It's a very simple thing in comparison to a world.
So the globe.
We don't understand the oceans of this world.
Well,
For instance, can you explain to me how we can go in any world, be it flat or spherical, how we can go from a vacuum, so beyond whatever you want to say, the firmament or sky, how we can go from a vacuum of zero to non-vacuum without a closed circuit. So how can we do that in your model or my model?
My model has a closed circuit. It has like the Bible boys will tell you, a firmament.
Closed circuit is very easy to explain it. You just chip together, get a wad of cats, build a rocket, fire it up, wait for it to hit the firmament. It's never been done. Why has it never been done?
I think there's a Go Fast rocket on YouTube. You can go and look for the Go Fast rocket, and it apparently hits the roof. But here's the thing: the richest men on earth. Okay, maybe. But the richest
stop spinning. Suddenly.
Yeah. I think it's a decoil spinning thing. I don't use that as an evidence. Yeah. So, but here's the thing: the richest men on Earth, they can only get to 50, 60, 70 miles. That's as high as Bezos, Amazon, Branson. They can get to 50, 60 miles. Guys, if it was possible, they could go. Guys, 50, 60 years ago, you go to the moon. Now. You can't go out to more than 50, 60 miles. Because we haven't.
Assume to know the capabilities.
How do you assume would we have, other than for what's been force-fed you down the TV
I'm not making a claim
through your
about
belief
it. You
system?
are. So what information do you have that I don't have? That allows you to say they can't?
Because I have no good reason to think that they can. We don't see rockets. Okay, let me give you. So let me answer you. It's a big answer, my friend. I don't know if you have the patience or the intelligence to hold on to this. Let me try.
You keep sneaking
Sorry,
veiled
that was
insults
a bit rude. Well, I've just had a slightly annoying day with people who are really just stuck with their belief system. And here I'm trying to give you information, I just keep getting talked over.
Sharing information.
So let me give you what I found out. Because by the way, I raised my older children on the moon landings. I gave them Hubble. I told them it was all real, by the way. So I had to go through all of this. But the truth is, when you look at the moon landings and the current space program, nothing really kind of adds up. Do rockets really work in a vacuum? When we try them in a vacuum chamber, we can't get them to fire. Do spacesuits work in a vacuum chamber? Oh gosh, we've never tested one with a man in it in a vacuum chamber on Earth. We have no video evidence of this. We have no video evidence of the lunar lander ever working at all remotely well.
No video evidence of me in the toilet. It doesn't mean I don't use the toilet.
I can tell you go sometimes, my friend. I can tell you go sometimes. But we all understand these processes. We can experience them for ourselves. None of us can experience going to space. There's only about 500 people who have said to have gone out into outer space. So it's a very small club, and that's easy to control. Military control a lot of secret stuff you don't know about. People in South Africa didn't know I was in war when I was in Angola.
There's also a small proportion of people who have summited K2 or crossed the Gobi Desert. It doesn't mean that
that's not a good enough one. Yeah, that's not.
There's less people crossed the Gobi Desert than officially landed on the moon. So,
Okay. But don't you agree on thermodynamics that there needs to be a barrier, otherwise you cannot have pressure like we have, low pressure stuff, and the pressure getting denser and denser? At the end of the day,
I have no formal education in thermodynamics.
If we put ourselves into a cocoon, and then outside of that cocoon was another bell chamber in which they created a vacuum, and then we broke the seal, what would happen? Immediate equalization. Just when you break the Coke can, immediate equalization. That's what happens. And so without a barrier, and you guys want to say gravity, but without a fixed firm barrier in reality, the fruit would die. Like I said, and you didn't answer earlier on, what fruit grows outside of its skin? Not one. Every fruit has a skin. Everything in nature shows it needs a bark, it needs a skin, otherwise it dies. And our world is no different. It's a macrocosm of the micro. And what we see in the micro is an orange that needs a skin. Peel the skin of the orange and it dies. But here's the thing, cut the orange straight down and you multiply that up 1 billion times. Guess what? Those seeds in the middle are continents.
So I'm curious.
They are continents, and the water of the flesh is the sea, is the ocean.
Where does this go in terms of, you're correct, again, the earth is flat, we're in a firmament.
I don't want to be correct.
No, but just say that we are,
that nature is what it is.
I don't understand how the various political systems, economic systems, so is it a case of there's an advanced alien species that came here from some other flat plane existence or another dimension or something that somehow farm us or
maybe
uses as batteries like the Matrix?
Maybe.
What is the reason for us existing in a system which does not allow us to perceive the system in which we exist?
All right. Well, the atheist way of seeing that question is like that there's other land, and there's other land, because on a flat earth then there's possibly other land being hidden from us. Yeah, possibly, or even different, if you take in the fruit example of a bunch of grapes, then we might be one grape on a bunch, and next to that are others. So I've got to allow for that possibility, like from an atheistic point of view, that there's a higher, almost Scientology, like some other beings seeded us here and they're harvesting our gold, harvesting our energy. Maybe it's that. But I also, from the DMT, for me, it was like, whoa, there is a higher me here on some kind of higher mission that I never knew about, and I'm trying to find my way to that and to get people to realize that they are all that Creator's essence, that all of us are equal, and that there's division and this idea of something higher than you, that you shouldn't eat animals, that you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, all bullshit designed to steal your self-mastery. So for me it's about self-mastery, coming back to self-mastery, that you are the center of the universe, the sun and the moon are yours, that this creation was designed with you, for you in mind, and you're meant to be master of that. This is the temple of God. It's not for me to interfere with the temple of God and mess with you or anybody else. And the same is true with government. So God, man, government should not have the power to intercede and say, I'm going to tell you what to do, because it's like, well, this is my world, this is my universe. Unless I'm interfering with somebody else, something else, then let me go about my business.
I think an open mind to other possibilities, or possibilities other than the globe Earth, is an intellectually honest position.
Yeah, thank you.
But I think to complete that intellectual honesty, you also have to make room for some space for the possibility that the Earth is a globe.
I raised my daughter is 23 years old, and I raised her on the globe. My relationship with my daughter was destroyed when I took this path, because this was such a departure and a betrayal. So I have lost an awful lot, my brother, walking this path. So I can assure you that if I thought,
landings and so on, I think that's a mistake. I don't have a strong position one way or the other, but it would be foolhardy for me to make strong claims about one or the other.
But if you are being deceived, you owe it to yourself to do the work, to test all things. You owe it to yourself.
Here's a thing for you. So you know that the argument coming against you is science.
No, I'm with science. Science is with me,
100%.
and Aries failure, a great example of science, proves that we don't move.
I'm just
Aries failure.
general balling science.
Okay.
So surely you're as a collective headspace of flat Earth, you guys would form a collective, chip in some cash, whatever, and then form a recognized scientific website that puts forward and follows the full process, so that other people of a scientific mind and mindset, when they come to attack you or discuss with you, and they say you're pseudoscience, that's bullshit. Well, you can produce, well, here's the scientifically funded papers and research that we have funded to show this, and that, and therefore they cannot.
We have that.
Stuff,
okay, I got you. We got FE Core. No, it does exist. It's called FE Core, Flat Earth Core, and it's a bunch of scientists. Trust me, there are scientists. There are FE Core. You can go and check it out. And they're doing all these experiments, and they're holding themselves to the highest standard of science. There are doctors, there are scientists, there are pilots, there are loads of people that are researching Flat Earth that had a high standing in a field that they have to now fight against, because everybody's saying, you're talking nonsense. So there is FE Core. Go and check that out. They do really good science, and they do long range viewing stuff.
I understand that science is completely bastardized as well, because if I work for Coca-Cola and somebody says that sugar is bad, I'll just out budget their.
Yeah. What about aspartame? The sweetness.
Loads of scientists.
The sweetness is
form something that
the tobacco companies had doctors telling us tobacco is fine. There's oncologists telling us that chemo is fine.
Anyway, thank you very much for your time, sir.
Cheers, brother. Thank you. And hey,
science is the best.
Science is the best, but it should be stuff you can test. You got to be able to test it for yourself. Don't take it on belief. You might as well be in a religion. But if it's all based on theory is theology.
Is the sun flat?
Huh?
You think the sun is flat?
I think the sun is round. I see a round light in the sky. What do you see?
I think it's round too, the sun. Yeah.
That's what I see. Yeah. I see a moon that's round too, but sometimes when it's like a half moon, I can sort of see through the moon. The half moon that is not lit up is the same color as the sky. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed how the moon rolls like this through the sky at the night? It'll turn about half the clock hand through about 12 hours. You can observe that. And when I was in the southern hemisphere last year, it was rotating counterclockwise whilst it does clockwise in the northern hemisphere. These are things that I cannot explain, but they are observations I've made that do not support what I was taught as a kid, is that, this is a rock floating in space. Rocks don't float in space, and water, as I say to people, is always provably level when it's at rest. Any body of water will come to a level and parallel to any other body of water if it's at a different height to some other body of water.
So it's just like a flat rock that's just going around?
So I think that we live inside an electromagnetic egg. A torus field. We are a microcosm of the macrocosm. Have you heard of the Russian dolls, the Matryoshka? These Russian dolls, there's 7 of them, nested dolls. The small one in the middle, that's you. Big one on the outside, that's God. That's Allah. That's everything. And we live inside of that. We live inside like an orange. We're like a cell inside of an orange. But that tiny cell, which is you, is no less orange than the whole orange. It's just a tiny piece of the whole orange. And the whole orange being, in this case, God, or our universe, the creation, Mother Nature, whatever you call Allah. That is everything, and you are the microcosm expressing itself. You are it. The cell of the orange is the orange expressing itself beautifully as one perfect cell of orange, no less orange than any other part of the orange.
I got a question though. So you said that you've observed the moon and the sun being round. What about the astronauts that go into the universe and see the Earth that is round? Wouldn't that also just be an observation?
Okay, so if this is true, then you have to realize that the whole of NASA was designed as part of the ruse, as part of the hoax. Now, NASA was started by Werner von Braun, who was a Nazi scientist that came over to America on Operation Paperclip. So the Nazis pretty much started that. And on his tombstone it says only one thing, Psalms 19:1, the heavens showeth God's handiwork. We don't think that they ever got rockets to go outside of about 100 miles of the Earth. Above 100 miles, there's perhaps some kind of barrier. Our rockets don't work outside of our atmosphere. Once the air gets too thin, rockets don't work. They certainly don't work in a vacuum chamber when we test them on the ground. So we think that our entire rocket program is part of a scam to extend this idea that we go to outer space. Now, in the 1960s, all of a sudden, with technology that wouldn't support my mobile phone, they went to the moon very quickly. We haven't been back in 50, 60 years. We lost the technology, according to NASA. We don't want to go back, according to some people, where it's not that important, according to others. But in fact, if we could go 50 years ago, why did we only take one photograph of the Earth from there? If you went to the Grand Canyon today, would you not take many photographs of the Grand Canyon and show your family all the different angles that you got of the Grand Canyon? Well, wouldn't you do that if you went to the moon? Would you just spend your time playing golf, which is what apparently they did? They went up to the moon, instead of taking good footage, proving that the Earth is spinning in space, as they claim, taking loads of photos. Look, there's home, there's India, there's Australia. They didn't do that. They gave us one photograph, and that one photograph came on the final mission, the finals of the moon landing. Oh, by the way, we just grabbed a photo of Earth from space. And then the next time they gave us a photo of Earth from space, 2015, 40 years later. Why are we not taking photos of Earth all the time from the moon? Why haven't they landed a 4K camera on the moon and filming the Earth turning from space? People would pay to watch that. So you could advertise and pay to watch that. But this is so easy to do apparently 50 years ago, but we can't do it today with our modern technology. No, as it says in the Hebrew book, that God created the earth firm and unmoving, set upon pillars. Am I right? Set upon pillars in Genesis. Set upon pillars, and the earth comes on day 4. The light comes on day 4. The sun and the moon, which are small lights according to Genesis. But according to the science that most people believe, the earth comes much later. The sun.
You're misquoting Genesis. You're misquoting Genesis.
Well, I read.
He's misquoting it.
Allow me. I read.
The biggest joke that has ever been fostered on the human race.
The globe is the biggest joke, and it is the biggest diminishment of God, because God would not have created a globe. God cannot look down on a globe, because a globe has an underside, and humans, you cannot walk underneath a globe. God created the earth with rakia, the firmament. There is a roof above us. Thermodynamics demands there must be enclosure and containment for there to be a gas pressure. The Hebrew conception of the earth is a snow globe with a Sheol underneath and a roof, a rakia, on the top. The only way we could have gas pressure, and it's all layered, the helium will go up against gravity until it gets to 50 miles, and there it will top out and level out flat, just like all the liquids will do in your glass. The water and the oil will not join, they will separate on a line, and that line will be level. Yes, sir?
So you're saying that what we're looking at with the clouds, that's actually, it's a dome?
Well, I think there might be a roof. There's a roof. Is it a dome? Maybe. Like the Truman Show, like a big soundstage.
But if we look around and you can see the clouds go down, that must be a dome.
No, that's perspective. You understand perspective? Let me get to your question. Let me quickly say, perspective means that when the airplane flies over my head, and it flies in the distance, it looks like it's going down, but it's a cruising level. You know that, sir, don't you?
Yeah.
So the clouds, they're at 500 meters for the next 50 miles. But for me, it looks like they're going down and touching the horizon over there. That's ridiculous. That's perspective. If you take a plane, you'll go up into that cloud layer and you'll see that it's flat like a tablecloth. Yes, ma'am.
I just don't understand that much, because like when you look at the ocean too, you can't really see the end of it, and I don't really understand the whole perspective thing. I think I'm just a little confused.
Okay, so, all right. So we can't see the ends of the ocean, but we think that we live in like a giant lake. See, a lake would have an edge around it. We understand that. A lake would have an edge. If it overflowed, it would flow down to the next river. But let's just say we live inside of an enclosed lake. That's our Earth. And there is one ocean. I'm saying the Earth is not a globe. And there's one ocean, right? The USGS will confirm this. There's only one ocean on Earth. We call it Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean. But the difference in height between the Atlantic and Indian Ocean is given as 9 inches. There is not thousands of feet of curvature. There's not thousands of feet of curvature occurring to our bodies of water. What happens is that when you watch a ship from the beach go away from you, it appears like the ship is going down. But two things are happening. One is the distance it goes away makes it get smaller and smaller. We know that further away, smaller. Then the angular resolution, because you're so close to the bottom of the horizon, you're 6 foot high or 5 foot high, you're looking so low, you start to lose the bottom of it first. But if I shot you up in a hot air balloon to 200 meters, well, you'd be able to see that ship, all of it, for another 5 miles. So what we're saying is that we appear to think we're losing the ship over the horizon. But if you ask the captain on the ship, is the water level for the next mile ahead of you? And the next mile he say, yeah, it's still level. I'm not going down yet. I'm not going down yet. I'm not going down yet. And eventually he'd get from England to America and say, I never went down. Just like when I put a spirit level on a plane and I found that we never go down. The nose keeps itself at 1.5 degrees up for 10 hours. It's not going down anything, up anything, around anything. It can go around in circles, east and west, but it never goes underneath this so-called globe. So we cannot be living on a globe. The water is level.
You see this situation that you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
If we use a high-powered telescope,
yeah,
it brings it back.
That's right. This gentleman's just confirming that when you see a ship go away over the horizon, you can use a high-powered telescope or a Nikon super zoom camera and bring that whole ship back into view, standing right where you are on the beach. And that could stay in view for half an hour or longer, long since everybody else said, no, it's gone over the curve.
Can I say something else as well? Before you said the Bible, it says about pillars.
Yeah.
It actually says immovable pillars.
Immovable pillars, thank you very much.
And the last thing, if you take the largest lake in the world, and they take lasers from one end to the other, long after you get from what they call the curvature of the Earth, you can still see it at exactly level.
You've been looking at this. Yes, ma'am, you got a question?
How you explain the satellites and the images that we have?
Easily. Okay, firstly, we got no photographs of a satellite in space. They're all cartoons. You can Google this yourself. There's no photographs of satellites in space. One.
We have direct images, direct videos of the Earth.
Well, yes, we can get these images from high altitude planes and high altitude balloons. We've been sending up high altitude balloons since the 1950s. They can take a gondola that weighs 3 tons, 4 tons, even 5 tons. They can take a satellite up to 200,000 feet and they can float it up there or use the winds that are up there to move it around the Earth, or perhaps it can be steered by some kind of solar or some other system, a battery system that's on it. But we've got footage of these types of satellites being launched from the ground. Do you remember Richard Branson went around the world you may not remember this, but he went around the world in a big helium balloon many years ago. It's a massive helium balloon. It's the size of, bigger than a football stadium kind of balloon. Because as it goes up into the sky, it just fills and fills and fills. The helium expands and it can stay up there and carry a load of 5 tons. Now we've got a footage. 1 second, sir. So we've got footage of one of these satellites being launched from a truck, where the helium balloon goes up and it doesn't launch properly, and the satellite smashes into a car and rolls the car. It's so heavy. So yes, they can float satellites into high altitude, and that's how our satellite system works. So you can have a satellite phone.
There's no satellite in the.
For me, outer space.
Outside of the
Outer space is fake. The orbit. Outer space is made up by Disney. Space is this around you, is space. Disney and a guy called Werner von Braun. Sorry, not Werner von.
How to explain that? How it's worked for you?
Okay. Well, let me just answer quickly the point that Disney is good friend. Walt Disney was very good friends with the guy who started Scientology and the guy who started NASA. Okay, just so you know, the 3 of them were students of Anton LaVey, Church of Satan. The Church of Satan. Let me just answer this question though. About the moon and the sun. So just like it says in the Old Testament, the moon and the sun are small lights in the room that we call Earth. So the universe as we see it has a roof, a rakia, a covering. There's a covering. There's a covering, and these are small lights ma'am, these are small lights that travel overhead, and they're personal to each of us. Each of us is the center of the universe, our own personal universe, and the sun and the moon and the stars, they are your guardians and your guiding lights.
And what's the point to invent all of this?
To hide God from you. To hide that you are God.
I'm Muslim. I believe in God, but I believe also that we have a global earth and that.
Okay, and in that case,
in my religion, it's concurred with the Quran, it's concurred with the science.
Well, for me, I believed in the possibility of the globe because I believed in the Big Bang Theory.
You believe that there is no God?
No, there is. Of course, there's God.
What's your teaching? What are you telling us?
I'm telling that God is you. That God is expressing. No, allow me. Like I said earlier on, that my example is the orange. Inside the orange are tiny little cells. Each of those cells is no less orange than the whole orange. It's just much smaller. And that's you. You are the cell within the orange. Each of us is that. Each of us is a cell within the orange. But if I can make the cell go bad, I can make the orange go rotten.
We are the creation.
Yeah, that's okay. So I'm giving you my teaching, brother. I know I went through Christian church teaching and all that. So I'm saying to you that what I believe that the religions are trying to hide is that God, like the Russian. Let me finish, please. There's the Russian nested dolls called the Matryoshka. There's 7 dolls, yes? Big one, small one. Small one is you, big one is God, Allah, everything. And between there 7 heavens, between this and what is at the top. That is the most high, that is most all. That is where we come from. But that most all had the intention and has the power to say, I want to express myself in a billion different ways. You, and you. I want to express myself in a billion different ways. I'm going to create a terrarium, an environment, a habitat for me to come safely to be the little doll inside my belly.
So you don't believe that God created you?
I believe God created me.
But you tell
I believe that God created
me. Part of
is like I said, the cell of the orange, is that still orange? It's all orange. It's only tiny. And it is still orange. It tastes like orange. It feels like orange. It's all orange. The same as you cannot have an Allah and not be Allah, because this is Allah. Is this not Allah? The trees, the air, the ether, you? Are you not Allah? Are you not all? Arm, leg, arm, head, Allah. Allah, A-L-L-A-H, Allah, you are all. And the universe is in you and the universe is out of you. So the sun and the moon applies to the lady, we know that. The cycle of the moon is attached to the lady's female process. We know that. The male energy is the sun energy, which is why all these religions, they love to worship the sun. Jesus is the Son of God. They want you to worship the sun. And in the heliocentric science model, they want you to worship the sun, because without the sun, we wouldn't be here. But the sun is servant to you. The sun is your light, so why worship it? Why put it at the center of your solar system? When actually it's meant to be you, the Christ, at the center of the solar system, with the 12 apostles, the 12 disciples, the 12 zodiacal signs, the dial that God gave us. The Sumerians knew we lived on a flat earth. The Sumerians knew that the lights in the sky were given to us as signs and symbols, and they were going to stay in their perfect arrangements and alignments and tell us when things were going to happen. The ancients knew that. And the ancients knew that we were the center of the wheel, that you are the center of the hub, you are the Christ, that the wheel revolves around you, that when there's a moonlit sky, think about it next time, you've got the clouds and the moon is lighting the sky for you. But there, 20 miles, 10 miles away, the sky's dark. But ask your friend who's 10, 20 miles away, is it light for you there? She'll be like, yep, the moon is lighting the sky for me perfectly, just for a mile around there, like a light on a foggy night, just for me. But it's not over your side. The moon is your light, and it is shining on you. The sunlight, when it comes to your feet at the beach, comes to your feet only, not your friends down there.
But it does go to my friends down there.
For her, but not that light.
How do you think we have like day and night?
Day and light is simple. Day and light is simple if it's a small light and it can only illuminate half of the surface at one time. So if it was like a large football stadium and a light that only had the ability to illuminate one half at a time, and I had to just kind of move it around from one end to the other.
So
do you get that?
The moon is just moving around them?
The moon is following that. It's on a slightly slower circuit. And as I say to people, you can watch it roll in the sky if you want to. Seasons is so if you took the football field analogy and the equator was the center line, then you've got these sort of partway line, the next 10-yard line or the 20-yard line. That would be your Tropic of Cancer, and on the other side of that would be your Capricorn. And the sun, through the course of the 365-day year, moves between those.
It's just flat.
Yeah.
How come there's so many different seasons? Like there's like winter, super cold, like summer, yes, spring.
Yeah.
It's not round. It's just flat. How come there's so many different seasons?
No, you know what doesn't make sense to me is that on a globe, how the weather can be so extremely different, and the
so
times
big,
of the day.
Right.
How big is it?
It's like I can't tell you the exact.
You don't
number.
know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Roughly.
I don't know. Roughly.
You have to guess.
How big the Earth is?
Yeah. So here's a guy defending the Earth, but you don't know it. Yeah. I raised my older children past university level who on this globe, by the way. So when I gave up this globe, I had to go back and make sure I knew what I was talking about. Right. So if you don't know the size of the globe, it's worth knowing that it's 24,900 miles in circumference around the equator, which means that we are moving right now at around about 1,000 miles an hour, which is faster than the speed of sound. But none of us can feel it, and none of you could point in the direction we're actually moving right now, because your senses, when you were 5 years old, you were told not to trust yourself. You were told not to trust your inner God-given senses, because when you were 5, you would have had that face when teacher said to you, you're spinning right now and you just can't feel it. You were like, no, I'm not spinning, I'm not moving. And the teacher, after a year telling you that, you've got to, okay, I'm moving, I'll accept that I'm spinning. But we still can't prove it, and there's no scientific experiment that will show that we are moving. People give me the example of those lights that move in the sky as example that the football pitch is moving. But if the ball moves over your head, is the football stadium moving? Really, people? The lights are moving in the sky. Those lights have stayed in the same formation for thousands of years. How could they be randomly traveling like some explosion and still hold all those 12 zodiacal beautiful signs that they've held for thousands of recorded years? It makes absolutely no sense on the globe.
The moon change like spins, right? In order to cause like light and day.
Distance, yeah. I used to say that. But there's no. Yeah, they're moving, but not relative to each other. You know, there's no what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? You know, when things move in the distance more slowly, then those things parallax. There's no parallax. There should be parallax with the movement of the stars, because if they're all, think about it, if I'm traveling around 1 million miles a day, and then you've got to be in the same place in a year's time as you were last year, but your trajectory is 1,000 times further away, how fast have you got to move, and how perfectly precise do you have to be right back in the same spot in 1 year from now? Impossible. But they give us these distances that are so far away that we as children go, nope, we can't prove that for ourselves, we'll just accept that. But in reality, if you move things differently to each other at different distances, to get them back in exactly the same place, they have to be moving at strange distances.